Reach high, aim high, and obtain. Any of you that love having a quick dish that's filling and yet at the same time delicious at the end of a workday, I love this particular dish, which is beef lo mein. And ideally you would have tenderized steak, which I have here. And what you would do is originally start cutting it into thin strips like that. And now this is 0.61 pounds of beef, for those of you that are curious as to how much beef I'm working with here. It has already been tenderized for me, and that's why I'm calling it tenderized steak. And I love this dish because if you come in, and I'm going to make this smaller so the strips are a little bit smaller, a little bit more workable when you're eating it and cooking it, but you want to make it as thin as you possibly can. And I'm purposely using my all-purpose cooking knife this time rather than my meat knife, just to show you that if you're first starting out with cooking, some of the tools that I would suggest if you're just starting out would be a quality chef's knife, just a general all-purpose chef's knife, and a cutting board as one of your first set of tools to kind of begin your cooking collection with, so that it'll make things easier for you. Because I have found if you don't have a quality, even if you're starting with a general all-purpose knife, it makes a huge difference. And I want to kind of show you that if you have a quality good general chef's knife, it'll make a world of difference if you're just starting out. But what I love about this dish is once you've cut your meat, and you want to do them as uniform as possible so they cook together and evenly, is you can marinate this technically the night before, put it together the night before or the next day that you want to eat it, or you can do it first thing the morning that you want to have it that evening for dinner, and marinate it, because the longer you marinate it, the more tender it will become. And it makes it absolutely delicious, because then you had technically all day for it to marinate, which makes the meat even more tender. You want to find the way the grain's going and do the opposite. And that's what helps me love this dish. And then once you've done your marination, the rest of the dish is just quick timing. And it happens together so quickly once you've done that initial marination. So that's one of the reasons why I love making beef lo mein. And on top of that, everyone in my family loves this beef lo mein. Now, the other thing I love is you can start with the basics of just the meat and the onions. That's the basic, with noodles, of course, and sauce. But that's a basic starting point for beef lo mein. But the great thing is that you can get creative with it. And anyone that's ever had beef lo mein or lo mein in general, you know, there's such a thing as vegetable lo mein, which means it's very vegetarian based, or you add your choice of meat. And that's what I love about this dish, is I can put my favorite vegetables or any vegetables in with my beef and onions, or just your onions and noodles, whichever you prefer to do. So you can make it as vegetarian or as meat-based with vegetables as possible, so you can get a really balanced, high-protein meal. Now, what I also love to do is to use what's called miracle noodles. Now, those of you that are gluten-free will love it, because it is a gluten-free noodle. And then those of you that are looking to maintain a high protein, similar to a ketogenic or paleo diet, those noodles work as well, because their main ingredients is protein and water. So it helps make the meal very filling, because there's, I can't think of his name at the moment, but basically based on the amount of protein you eat in a day also helps determine one's weight. And so I'm doing my best to incorporate even more protein into our diet as a family. And that's another reason why I love doing the lo mein, is because I can give us high protein with the meat in addition to the noodles. And the noodles help make it very filling as well. And since it's mainly water and protein, you get that wonderful balance of needs in your body fulfilled. So that's one of the many reasons why I love making this particular dish. And you want to make sure you're cutting it against the grain, not with the grain. And that's what helps hold the structure of the meat. So feel free to move your meat around in order to get to where you need to be to make this happen. And you could also make chicken lo mein. I'm not a fan of it, but shrimp lo mein if you want. But the main focus is getting a quality meat here. So once you've got your meat all uniform, and like I said, this is 0.61 pounds. Put this, you want to get either a glass or a metal container. So once you've got your meat all uniform, you want uniformly cut and then long strips or short strips, however you prefer, but you want to make sure everything is as uniform as possible in length, width, all that. Then you want to put it in a container. I prefer glass, but basically you want a container, and ideally avoid plastic. And that's because all the research I've done, if one uses plastic, it can leach into the food. So I tend to do either stainless steel or glass, and then making sure that my food doesn't touch plastic, because this does sadly have a plastic lid. But the next step is going to be, we need our salt.
But with the plastic lid, the plastic doesn't touch the
That's
food.
why I said the plastic. I make sure it doesn't touch our lid, because I don't want it contaminating or touching the food. So for this, we're going to start with 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. We're going to add to that. Then to that, we're going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon. And this is, of course, aluminum-free baking soda. So you want to make sure you're making sure your baking soda and baking powder is always aluminum-free. And that's 1/8 of a teaspoon, okay? Because it doesn't take much. Because with the meat, you don't want to overpower it with the baking soda. You just want enough in there that it actually helps tenderize the meat, because that's one of the main things that helps facilitate things with this recipe is the baking soda, because it does help tenderize the meat, and I love that. Next, we want a soy sauce. I'm going to use my Shoyu organic and unpasteurized soy sauce. There are other soy sauces, and I actually have some, but I haven't experimented yet with. So it's 1/2 tablespoon of soy sauce added to that. So 1/2 tablespoon soy sauce. And then to that, we're going to add, and this is one of the keys to resistance, one of the fabulous things that helps make this recipe happy, is Chinese cooking wine. Because anyone that knows or has worked with alcohol and cooking, it does help make things tender because of the fermentation that happens. And this was just a general Chinese cooking wine that Dad bought years ago. And we've just been using it for a very long time because it doesn't take much. We're only going to use 2 tablespoons here. So you can get 1 bottle and it lasts a really long time, which I love. Only negative is it kind of takes up room in the refrigerator. Okay, then what we're going to do to that is we're going to add some arrowroot. And I keep my arrowroot in this wonderful container. And we're going to use 1/2 tablespoon of that. So I'm going to use the other side of my 1/2 tablespoon so I can get the measurement that I need to. First level off, because we don't want more than we need, right? Now, once we have all of this together, okay, you can add some pepper. And by pepper, I mean black pepper. I'm not a fan of black pepper. My dad is, so I'm like, you know what? Everyone flavor it to your taste. So I'm not going to add pepper to it. But if you want, this is where you would add just a little bit of freshly ground pepper if you would like. And then what we're going to do is mix this up really good, because we want to thoroughly coat our meat and get it well incorporated with all the ingredients, because all of those together is what's going to make, because the arrowroot's in there, it helps thicken what we've put in there, which is all of those sauces of the soy sauce and the Chinese cooking wine with the baking soda and the salt. And what it does is the arrowroot gets everything to come together, so that when you are moving things around, it helps coat the meat and hold onto the meat. So you can see now, see here, if I lift it up, there's not really any sauce left in it, because why? I've moved it around, and the arrowroot has helped the meat to grab hold and combine everything well. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put this with the lid in the fridge. And then this is where I'm saying that once you've done this part, you can put it in the fridge either that morning or the night before. Let it sit, because the bare minimum you want to do is at least 2 hours. So if you do longer, the meat's going to get more tender, more flavorful, and it'll make the dish even pop more with the flavor. So that's why I'm saying this is a great meal and dish to make for those of you that are needing a quick turnaround in regards to making something, but you want something healthy too. And that's why I love making this particular dish this way. We're going to do our Miracle Noodle angel hair pasta that's organic, and it is non-GMO, organic. It is KLBD, gluten-free, and it's low, what is this? Monash University Low Food Map certified. My apologies if I mispronounced that. It is gluten-free, dairy-free, grain-free, soy-free, 0 fat, 0 sugar, 0 sodium, plant-based, low-calorie, keto and paleo-friendly, and certified vegan. And in case you were curious as to the ingredients, those are the only 3 ingredients in there. And what we're going to do, because we need to open up the noodles, drain it out, give it a quick rinse of any additional residue, and then we will use our stovetop to actually dry and heat the noodles a little bit. So what we're going to do is begin by opening this, and we are going to be doing 2 packages. And I gotta find the tab on here. Ah, there we go. And then we're going to pour this into our strainer. And I love this particular one because it's got feet on it, so that I can put it in my sink and it's not touching anything, and it keeps allowing it to drain, which is great. So we're going to open up our second package. And this also allows me to be near the filtered water when I do this. But my favorite part is because then I'm not having to try and hold it while opening these packages. And that's my favorite part about using this particular strainer. And then, of course, using the filtered water, we need to rinse off the water that it was preserved in, which was obviously the citric acid stuff. And just stir that around real good. I'm going to squeeze that a little bit, get rid of the excess. And then we're going to put this over by our stove so that we can do next steps before we cook these. Okay, so we're going to begin with creating the sauce that will ultimately top our lo mein. And now, even though I am using the Shoyu soy sauce, and this is a soy sauce, if any of you are uncomfortable using soy products, Trader Joe's does have a product called Coconut Aminos, and it is a 1-to-1 replacement with standard soy sauce for those of you that would like an alternative. So do be aware of that. For any of my recipes where I may use soy sauce, you can do the 1-to-1 replacement of the Trader Joe's Coconut Aminos, and it will still work.
Although the soy that we use is
a good soy. It's just I know there's some that want to avoid soy, and I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. And I wish I'd mentioned in my other videos. It's automatic sometimes for me to just be aware of that. And
this one's non-GMO'd. And
right. But I know there's some that don't want to do soy. They still want to have soy product flavors and to have their oriental, Chinese type dishes like we're making here with the lo mein. But I wanted to tell you have the option of Trader Joe's does sell a product. It is called Coconut Aminos, and it has no soy in it, but it is a flavor one-to-one replacement with soy sauce if you want to do it. So we're going to do 1.5 tablespoons of this. There's our one. And we're going to do our 1/2 tablespoon of our soy sauce. Now, once we've done that, now we are actually going to do our oyster sauce. And this is the piece that makes, or the ingredient I should say, that makes everything kind of work.
And the oyster sauce is oyster mushrooms,
yes.
Not oyster the...
Thank you, Ma. I do want to be clear because I think people see the word oyster mushroom sauce and without sugar as the title of my recipe out there for this particular sauce here. But it's actually a type of mushroom. It's not actually made out of oysters. But if it's a mushroom, kind of like saying shiitake mushrooms, you don't just say mushrooms, you have to say the type of mushroom. And it was the type of mushroom I used was oyster mushrooms because they had more of the, I think it's called lo mein flavor, but it's basically what makes natural MSG. So thank you, Mom. I do want to be clear on saying that this is, if you want to say it, vegetarian oyster sauce, okay? There's no seafood involved here. So on this, we're going to do 3 tablespoons of this. And because this is a really thick sauce, you can see it comes out of my tablespoon quite easily. And this stuff is phenomenal. We'll give this a quick stir just to make sure everything's kind of incorporated there easily. And we're making this ready to go so that once we finish all the other parts, we can just pour this in and we don't have to worry about, uh-oh, I got to measure this real quick before everything finishes cooking. So that's why we're doing this in advance. Now, the next thing I want to do here, I'll put this to the side because we're going to need that over by the stove as well, is my dad, because I like vegetables in my lo mein. And so he has this, what's called stir-fry mix that he got. I love having bell peppers, especially red ones, but we can't get red ones right now because they didn't produce this year. But I love having bell peppers and broccoli and different, root type vegetables in my stir-fry. So I'm not just eating meat and onions, although that is a good, place to start, but I wanted you to see this. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to put this in the microwave. I just personally do not believe in putting my food in the microwave. So what we're going to do is we're going to open this bag. We're going to do what the instructions here said, which is about 2 tablespoons of oil to marinate and bring these all up to the needed temperature for the cooking. And so that way we can also get the vegetables in our lo mein, and I can also use the cooking time, since it's 5 to 7 minutes, to also do what I need to do with the lo mein noodles, which is I need to cook those about 5 minutes. So this will be a good timing to help everything come together. Now we are at our stove. We are going to add 2 tablespoons of our avocado oil to this. And I haven't turned on the heat yet because I want to do this without it on first. So our 2 tablespoons of oil per the frozen vegetable instructions that are on the front here. And I've already opened up this, I guess I opened up the bottom, the stir-fry mix down here. It's a stir-fried mix that's frozen. And it says basically use 2 tablespoons and cook for 5 to 7 minutes. So now we're going to turn on, and let's swirl that around just a hair so that we can get the oil well coated to do this. It'll just make it faster is all. I'm looking to do there. I love the fact it's finally level. And then we're gonna add our many pieces of frozen vegetables. So I've purposely got it on medium heat because as this melts, it will help bring everything together. The other thing I need to do is add our onions. We are going to add our onions. It's been just a couple minutes and we're purposely adding them because I want all the vegetables to stir fry together. And plus the onions will add some liquid and some flavor and it'll be delicious. See, it's got the little baby carrots and it looks like some peas and broccoli, which I love. And a few red bell peppers, which you know me, I love red bell peppers. Me and red bell peppers have a fabulous working relationship, I'll tell you. And we need to be adding our meat in there because meat kind of takes longer than vegetables. So I'm going to move those over to the side a little bit so we can get our marinated meat in there. And you want to break it up a little bit because remember, these are multiple pieces. They just happen to have stuck together during the marination. And for reference, we put this in a few hours ago, so it's been more than 2 hours, but you just need a minimum of 2 hours of marination time. And plus, by putting the meat in this, it'll help flavor the vegetables as well as the meat cooks. Turn our meat over. As you can see that one side's getting cooked. We want to make sure all sides are cooked. And feel free to adjust your cooking temperature as needed. Well, there's our timer. It says it's been 5 minutes, so we've got this going pretty good. Now, it may not look initially like there's a lot of sauce in here because we haven't finished adding our sauce for the noodles and everything else. So don't worry if you're looking and you're like, well, it just looks like meat with no flavor. Don't worry about it. It will happen, especially when we put the sauce in here with the noodles. You can see everything's starting to come together now. Now the main thing we need to do at this point, because our vegetables were frozen, is we'll have to give this more cooking time because we want the water to evaporate a little bit so we don't have a watery sauce. But on the positive, it helps make everything come together well. Let's start mixing everything that we can get our vegetables and our meat evenly distributed in the pot so one side isn't with the cold, and that way it'll cook better. You can see our meat is now well browned. That's great. because this is so liquidy right now, and you don't want to add the noodles and then you've got more water, and then add the sauce, and then because you didn't cook off the water, then the sauce becomes runny and it's not sticking or flavoring the dish. So that's the main reason why I'm doing this. Let me move things around just a little bit. I mean, you can see just how much water from the frozen vegetables. Ideally, you would use fresh vegetables, but I had the frozen vegetables on hand and I needed to use them. So sometimes you just adapt the recipe and approach with what you have on hand. And that's what I love. And I know I say this, but the beef lo mein, I can't help but love it because it does allow one to do something healthy and quick without too much effort. So I gave it a few minutes and you can see the water has pretty much cooked off. There's still a little bit, but that's what we want because now we can add our noodles. Now remember, these noodles require about a 5-minute cooking time. So we're going to set ourselves a timer. And this is only because these are the type of noodles they are. Set a 5-minute timer. Otherwise, you typically would not do this. And then I'm also going to add our sauce here to flavor everything. And it also helps keep things from burning because it's a sauce, you know. And it'll help flavor all of the vegetables now and the meat. And you can see the noodles are now changing colors. Okay. And because I have this on the high eye, I'm going to turn this down. And I'm also, because the cast iron will stay pretty hot, I'm actually not going to do the full 5 minutes because if I do more, it actually will be a different dish. And we want our noodles tender for this particular item. So I'm just going to do a few, and then I'm going to completely turn off the eye. And that's only because these particular noodles require just a little bit of cooking time because everything was so moist. You can see how the water's coming off. So we're doing really good. Okay. Now see here how it's producing water. We don't want excess water in our dish. So now I'm switching to my tongs. Because that way I can manipulate the items better. And it really allows me to grab the noodles and you can see move it so I can flip things. Okay. But with what I'm seeing, I'm going to turn off the heat now. And I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to do the full 5 minutes. But because this is cast iron, technically it keeps cooking because cast iron retains heat well. So once you've gotten it to a certain temperature, you're pretty much guaranteed it's going to stay warm for a while. And this will allow us to manipulate the sauce around all the vegetables and the noodles. And now you can see, look at how colorful this is. Doesn't this look delicious? And it's quite filling because you have the protein from the meat and the protein from these particular types of noodles. You would not find this with a standard flour noodle, the amount of protein and water found in these noodles. And they're extremely filling too. So it really helps make a dish go longer. And if you happen to make quite a bit, like I am here, then feel free to save some. You can have it for lunch or dinner the next day. So it's kind of like you make one, and depending on how many people you're feeding, it can go quite a distance. And this is also, you know, if you're wanting to cook someone you love a really nice meal and impress them, you know, this is a way to kind of do it too. Okay, I think we are good because you can see here there's not a lot of water, which is what we want. The noodles you can see have changed colors. from where they were almost whitish clear to now this beautiful sauce color. So now we'll plate everything and have our wonderful meal. Okay. This. Okay. So let us plate ourselves a dish here. So let's grab some noodles because it's very dominant in this particular dish, obviously, because lo mein means noodle dish. And then we'll put some of our vegetables around the sides here on top. And you can always come back for more. That's the fabulous part. And this usually clears out pretty fast in our household. Now, for those of you that may not want to do the noodles, Miracle Noodle does make rice substitutions now. And I actually have that because we are going to be making orange chicken in this house, i.e. my dad is finally going to make us some orange chicken so I can share it with you guys. So I wanted to share this with you and mention to you about the rice, for those of you that would prefer that approach instead of the noodles. Having my beef lo mein there. This is the one with all the vegetables.
That's good.
Yeah?
That's very good.
You like it?
Mm-hmm. Now that is delicious. Mm. Great.